Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolish Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions, and our Wednesday show, which is the Sunday show, which is the Monday show.
Today it's a Monday show.
Starring Mac and Zebra, who couldn't make it because of a cough. But just the same, please check out bigzebra.com and leave a comment on what I think is really ironic humor, real pure irony. And good clean fun, as the Brits say. Good clean fun. How you doing, Brother Mac?
I'm doing fine today, thank you. Had a great day today. The garden is starting to grow, so had some dirt to dig in and had the day off. And it feels like spring today. It was raining for most of the day, but it's warm and very pleasant. So I feel optimistic today.
So are you are you talking about like row crops, or is it more of a hodgepodge, or like you're doing this for production of food, or?
It's experimental. I've got a lot of land to play with. So for the last 2 years, we tried to do a no-till sort of sisters garden. Although instead of 3 sisters, we did more like 6 intertwining plants that we hoped we could encourage to find some kind of balance with each other, and with different kinds of success. We're very good at growing crabgrass, and that's our main crop.
Everyone's got a talent.
Yeah. So this year we're actually going to let that part of the garden sit, and whatever seeds fell or whatever from last year, we're going to let rise up, and then we'll pull out the less desirable plants that'll grow. And then we're doing a few rows of what we call pizza vegetables. So onions and tomatoes, basil, peppers, things like that, toppings for the pizza.
What kind of onions? What kind of tomatoes?
So I always try to get some San Marzano tomatoes that are like qualified, like officially San Marzano to grow, but really any kind of Roma tomatoes. I like the way they grow, so I like to tend them. I'm not really big into the like spindly beefsteak potato or tomatoes that you have to constantly go out there and they seem like they grow 6 feet a day, and it's exciting, but it's just a lot of work. So
trying to prop them up so they don't break and die. Yeah,
exactly.
They actually get fruit. Yeah, yeah. The let's see, the beefsteak, Better Boy. I mean, great looking sandwich tomatoes, but it can't hold itself up. Never mind when the tomato grows.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're always staking and tying and staking new stakes and new tying. It's a constant fight. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so much.
My mom liked them for sandwiches.
That makes sense.
What was it?
They're good for slicing.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugly as hell.
My children like the cherry tomatoes, so I always plant a couple of those as well. And they bush out and are plentiful all year, so that's always fun to grow as well. And the birds seem to like those too. So,
sure.
Some of those in.
Okay, so what are we talking about today? I understand that Steve the Zebra had a suggestion.
He suggested just very vaguely that we talk about the topic of visions, which, when applied to the topics that we typically discuss here, seems to immediately refer to a lot of important things. The visions of the prophets, for instance, that are part of the stories in the scripture, or your personal vision that you had, which you've shared a few times. I don't know if it'd be useful to go over that again, or the details of that again, but maybe we could talk a little bit more deeply about some of the common causes of such experiences, and maybe more importantly, because I know that you've been challenged on this, how you differentiate yours as authentic compared to maybe less authentic experiences that could also sort of follow the same pattern as yours.
Well, what do you think of the common objections, personal and mass hysteria, within confirmation bias? Go over all that and how people make mistakes thinking they'd had something important in a vision.
I think the reason people make mistakes, or invest more than they really reasonably ought to into visionary experiences is because those experiences tend to be coupled with an emotional, maybe even spiritual component that is convincing in its very nature. It's
Mhm.
part of its nature is that you are convinced that it feels very true and real, and not like it's not even an option to question it. And I think that that's universal, whether whether those visions are authentic or not.
Mhm.
So well, maybe they're not universal. I think there are people who have like very vivid dreams, for instance, who wake up and say, "I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure whether that was as meaningful as it felt during the dream. Now that I'm awake, or not.
Right.
Maybe it's not meaningful." I experience that a lot, where I'll wake up and sort of shake my head after a very vivid dream and say, I don't know. Like that felt like something, but now that I'm awake, I don't know anymore.
Perhaps we should do a show on dream interpretations
Oh, that'd be
or
interesting.
vision interpretations, because I've been educated about that through prayer, and understanding someone else's vision is all about understanding what those symbols mean to that person,
Hmm.
which is really interesting. And I've heard people tell me I don't think everything's a vision. I've heard people tell me that they'd had a vision in a dream form, and then it turns out to be absolutely nothing they didn't know. And I've
Okay.
had people tell me um, about dreams that they'd had that they perceived only as visions because they were atheistic or quote unquote, according to Catholicism, a pagan,
Right.
and recalled to me first person experiences of what would happen in end times, a story that they don't believe is ever
Hmm.
going to happen, or in that particular person's case, didn't know the story at all, but still was recalling. Actually, I've had two people tell me about that,
Hmm.
where they were recalling what some would call Ragnarok and what those events would be like in very practical first person experience. Peace and respect, Christian Carpenter. Thanks for dropping by. Um,
So you say that um, maybe more visions than we do take seriously ought to be taken seriously. Maybe more visions are dismissed than we should be dismissing.
I don't know about the percentages,
Okay.
but I know people will dismiss things that make no sense and say, well, that was a
Sure.
bunch of junk, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's our nature. We'll go, well, I don't understand what just happened there, right? So
Hmm.
we'll say, oh, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to forget about it. And then they can't forget. It
I
was
see.
too clear. It was too real. It doesn't fade from their memory like a dream should.
Right.
And they talk about that experience sometimes for decades,
Right.
and they don't know what it means, and they need help interpreting it. They need help figuring out what the meaning is, and the meaning is for them.
Hmm.
It's not for anyone else,
Hmm.
which is very interesting. I think the biggest differentiation between my experience of dreams and my experiences of visions is forgettableness. I've forgotten so many dreams
Sure.
because it was
We
just
all do all the
crap,
time. Yeah.
and it didn't seem meaningful. It wasn't memorable, and my brain
Right.
just let it go, and it's gone. Whereas there's something about the actual visions themselves that makes them unforgettable, and those are the things that stay with us. Peace and respect to Dr. Cross. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. Okay, so I think it would be interesting to do a show on interpretation. I think that would be helpful and interesting. Of course, it's a case by case basis. Peace and
Right.
respect to Cryptomeria. Thanks for stopping
Crypto.
by. And so the general idea of dream interpretation can be explained, but when you're talking about any certain dream, that has to be addressed one at a time,
Hmm.
which
Right.
most people are just not going to do.
Right.
I've had Christians tell me stories of a dream that this her name's Carolyn. You're going to meet her sometime. Our sister Carolyn.
Hmm.
She was having repeated dreams of giant balloons, red balloons, and it was the kind of balloon that you would ride under in a basket.
Okay.
But there was no basket, there was no strings, and the people were inside.
Hmm.
And they were very, very happy and having a party inside there. And she really wanted to be part of the party. Had no idea it was in the Bible. That large red spherical thing with people you want to be with, the kind of people you want to be with, the kind of thing you want to be involved in is going on inside the big red balloon.
Hmm.
And another dream. It was funny because she had drawings of the dreams, and I already had, when we met, drawings of heaven's arrival.
Sure.
So when she pulled out those drawings and said, I don't know what this is about, but it sure is important to me, and I don't know why, I whipped out those drawings and said, well, let's take a look at them, shall we? Let's do a comparative here. Anyway.
What was that like for her? Was that clarifying for her?
Shocking.
Yeah.
It was just, she had no idea that it was a religious thing, or that you could call it a religious. It wasn't a religious thing, but you could call it a religious experience. She had no idea. It was just a dream that wouldn't leave her, so she started painting it.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. And she and I and Dave had timely prayer that was tested and confirmable. We went through a full series of testing and confirmations of in between the three of us prayer. It was an interesting thing. That's going to be a whole nother topic, I think.
Right.
Okay. All right. So how would a person know if they just had a dream versus how they'd have a vision? How they'd know they'd had a vision? I think memorability is not the right word. That's it. Memorability would be a clue that it's not just a dream.
Okay.
Second, if you understand, if you're a person who's into self-analysis and you understand how you value things, and you've spent any time, peace and respect, B, just saying hi. Have a great stream. Okay, completely derailed. Help me.
So memorability. So if you have this vision, but then you cannot, not only can you remember it, but you can't forget it, I think is what you're trying to emphasize. Like it has.
If you have a dream that seems counterintuitively important to you,
right?
Like you look at it and you go, well, that was just a bunch of stupid stuff, but it stays with you. You can't let it go.
Right.
You're kind of, in a minor way, obsessed with it. It's worth a second look.
Gotcha.
And if you're a person who's practiced at introspect, which is funny, B should show up just after I'd said that, because that's something that B practices all the time. If you're someone who's practiced at introspect and you know your value system and the things you find important, and you can sit and say, this kind of a symbol means this kind of a thing to me, and make a note and just write it down. What that sort of thing means to you. And then go through the whole thing like that, you're going to get an interpretation of your own dream. I really recommend that. It only requires that you know you. Because if it is a vision and not just a dream, then there was an intent in sending it, and the intent was to tell you something, which is, of course, you would already understand, even if it's in symbols, if you go through what your symbols mean to you.
Right.
Mac in front of the barn is a symbolic of the apocalypse, or not. It might be symbolic of his streaming bothers the kids when they're trying to sleep. It could be symbolic of that too.
It's
and
just really
woodworking
nice
stuff.
out.
Yeah.
Want to be
So
outside.
it's beautiful. Peace and respect to Titan. So, all right. Second thing that a person might note: falsifiability. Um, Dreams don't normally relate to our actuality, our actual reality. Dreams aren't concerned with that.
Right.
Some of the best psychologists today say that dreams are the brain processing from the lesser conscious mind to the more conscious mind, trying to make sense of experiences,
Right.
something like that. And I think that's probably true of dreams, which is why it doesn't really make sense and it seems fantastical, and you forget it, within a week or a month or
Sure.
whatever like that. It's just gone. It's just
Right.
part of the processing. But nothing significant there, and certainly it wouldn't relate to reality as we know reality.
Right.
So that's a sign of communication, not a sign that you'd had a dream, because dreams aren't like that, if that makes sense. Okay, so I think that we know something is true under the. I think we should use what we've always used to know if something is true or not. Something like correspondence theory. Is it coherent within itself?
Sure.
Can it be falsified? Can it be repeated? If you have the same experience several times that result in a positive outcome that you could not have predicted,
Right.
and that positive outcome is something that wasn't part of your design. It's not something you did. It may have been something that other people did, or just a set of circumstances that you would have entered into voluntarily, not normally the kind of circumstance you would have entered into, something like that. Sorry, reading side chat. Anything that I needed to address. If you guys say something that your brain thinks important and you write it in a serious way, I'll try to address it. Okay, so memorability and falsifiability and correspondence to reality, I think, are some good signs that something wasn't a dream.
Okay.
I think a third sign is, or a third indicator that it's not a dream. This light to the side is very distracting for me. I'm sorry. I'm doing a terrible job of concentrating because of it. But then without it, I'm just a very, very dark figure that you can't see. Okay, so I have to replace half of my lights in this area, and I have not gotten around to it because I've been working too much.
Gotcha.
Anyway, sorry about that. Okay, so I figured if I got it out in the open, then maybe I could get past it. That usually works.
Right on.
Does all of that make sense to you so far?
Yeah, I mean, those don't seem to be very bold claims, frankly.
No.
Yeah, that's just reasonable. Yeah. I think it's the implication that's sort of bold, which is that if all of those conditions are met, then we have something more than a dream.
Right.
Something that's being communicated to us supernaturally or naturally, but in a way that we can't really understand fully yet. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
It's not very experimental for me to say we don't understand all of the human brain.
That's definitely not. No.
Now that could be an appeal to ignorance, but we do have indicators of things that the human brain does.
Right.
That electrically connect with parts of the brain that are incapable of thinking, and those parts of the brain make suggestions to us. And those suggestions are the things that we choose from when we're nullifying what we won't do. and that's just what's going on with the brain there. And no, I don't have a physical mechanism. I don't know exactly how it works. I think none of us do.
I mean, that shouldn't be required for us to explore this. But then the next thing that sort of jumps into my head is that we have to acknowledge as well that there must be people whose experiences do meet all of those conditions, but still have gotten bum information. I'm thinking
Well,
about like
that is part of
doomsday
the problem.
prophets.
Yeah, that is part of the problem. Of course, I don't know of an ancient religious story that claims a living progenitor as God who doesn't say there's an evil entity who's trying to mess you up.
That's true.
I think that quote unquote, it's not actually evil. It's evil to us, which is very specific to the species that we are. I think it has that same ability, or they have that same ability to communicate in the same way. And because of that, they are able to suggest things to us that are not true.
And grant us overwhelming visions as well, right? That
and very emotionally appealing and everything that I've talked about so far, except that even if it did contain some truth, it would also contain some kind of persecution of human beings.
Okay.
Either self or others. Or it would make a person feel like they were grandiose, better than others, or like proud of themselves,
right?
And all of those things would be actually negative things. When you start to think you're better than someone else,
right.
You're a televangelist.
Right.
At that point, you may as well be. Serotonin signaling. Yes, there is. Dr. Cross is an actual doctor. Just by the way.
She's amazing.
Oh, okay, cool. So I don't know what serotonin signaling, other than how a person feels when they're experiencing that chemical release. If it has something to do with this conversation, I'm gonna need you to expound on it. I don't know that much about biology. So I don't know what serotonin signaling, other than, it's a release of a chemical that makes you feel good from your brain. What it does, what it has to do with the conversation. Except maybe what Dr. Cross is saying is that people's confirmation bias can be a serotonin release, and serotonin is one major signaling pathways of visions, dreams, and hallucinations. Okay.
It's a neurotransmitter.
Serotonin is one of the major signaling pathways of visions, dreams, and hallucinations. Yeah, that's. I think there's not a big difference between all of those, which is why we're kind of talking about it today, is to see if we can find how we know the difference between those things. I mean, if a hallucination is definitionally a hallucination, peace and respect, Randolph Richardson, then it won't comport to reality. If it's only a person's processing of things they already know, it would be included in their past experiences, and they're just putting things together, which is a really interesting process that we need to do on a daily basis. But just the same, it wouldn't reveal new information. You might look at old information in a new way, but you wouldn't have new and novel information. That wouldn't happen from a dream. And then, of course, visions, what I think a vision should be is confirmable, repeatable, correspondent, falsifiable to reality outside of the person's actual experience. And that would be better indicators than just a hallucination or a dream. Okay. So I don't know what else could be indicators other than novel thing, falsifiable, comports to reality from outside of the experience of the individual.
I mean, that definitely makes it mysterious. And
it's not that okay, the functionality of it, how it's working, might be mysterious. I think it definitely is. Okay. I'm experimenting with an idea. I can't show that this is true. Maybe we're like advanced homing pigeons. Maybe we sense and process things in our physical environment in very interesting ways, and things that are very, very subtle and can be ignored. We recently discovered that humans' brains react to different electromagnetic fields. I can show you the research on that. It's 100% of the people. It's not anomalous whatsoever. And they don't consciously recognize that their brain states are changing because of changing magnetic fields. But it's brand new science about the brain. Who'd have thunk, right?
Yeah.
We are electromagnetically cool. Sensitive. But they're like a homing pigeon. We just don't pay attention to it. And maybe sometime in our distant past, we depended on it. It's hard to say. Right. For like finding things. I can't really know.
Hunting or identifying plants.
It's hard to say everything that would come in handy for that.
Right.
That would come in handy for.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And if you're interested, if anyone's interested in that, I'll send you the links to that. You could just Google human sensitivity electromagnetism if you didn't want to wait for a link from me and go through that whole rigmarole. Okay, so I think it's Berkeley is doing the research on that. But anyway, okay, so completely lost again.
This is one of those topics. It can go in a lot of directions. I'm going to share something, if I could.
Please do.
Dream related, something that's it's been an experience of mine now for I think over a year, that almost every night I experience. Gosh, I feel a little vulnerable sharing this suddenly. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's a suggestion. Just tell us exactly how vulnerable you feel about it, and ask for trust. And hopefully, I think this crowd, you'll get trust.
Right on. I appreciate that. I do. I'm going to do that. I'm sharing here an experience that I'm having while I dream. That's been going on for over a year now, and I think that it's anomalous in a way that I'm actually a little bit concerned about it, and I'm not sure that what exactly it means about my personal mental health. So I'd appreciate it if everybody could be cool about what I'm about to share. But essentially, what I experience is, or what I remember experiencing when I wake up, is not the typical, or what I had come to understand as a typical dream state, where a series of events unfolds, some sensical, some nonsensical, characters, some familiar, some unfamiliar. But instead, I seem to keep going to the same place and interact with the same characters and travel in that area to the same landmarks. I even have a regular restaurant that I'm going to, different family members, coworkers. I have a different job there. And it's not like it's more exciting or glamorous. It's a mundane existence, actually, but it's very different. And I wake up remembering details from this and thinking, and it's only been about a month and a half where I've started to write down, journal, the details that I'm experiencing, that I'm gathering from this. And anyway, it reminds me of something that I read about a long time ago, where a man experienced a delusion that he was also a captain of a spaceship that was, I think, a Martian spaceship or something like that. And when he reported this, I don't know how true this was, but supposedly when he reported this to his psychiatrist, the psychiatrist decided to try to like go along with his delusion, and they both ended up believing in it and believing in these maps that this man had drawn and things like that. And I'm not confident that I know the difference between whatever clinically a delusion is and whether I'm moving toward that or just a dream or something meaningful. And when we talk about that it feels meaningful being some kind of evidence, this feels meaningful. This feels like something more than just a vision, or just a delusion, or I don't know, just a blah blah blah, just a dream. I guess we got to say we have to have 2 words, so we'll call it visions and dreams. I don't know.
That'll work for now.
Yeah, but also I don't derive a lot of gravitas or meaning from it. Like I'm not waking up with revelations or heavy symbolism or anything like that either. So anyway, I don't know what you can do with that, but that's my kind of most recent visionary.
Mostly I have questions.
Okay.
Why journal it?
Because it's been haunting me. It's been something I can't shake, and because I want to piece it together. I feel compelled to understand the details. I want to know like whether the mountain range is north or south of the house I live in. And I want to know there's a road that my friend lives on, and I want to know how many streets from where I live that road is. I don't know why. It's a compulsion, I guess. I wake up curious about that, and I can't piece it together with my memory, so writing it down is helping that.
Okay.
So
you can't piece it together with your memory. I don't understand what that meant.
Well, like the next day when I wake up with a new memory of the dream, I know that it's interconnected. I know that familiar motifs have transpired and whatnot, but
Okay.
I can't remember exactly how it fits together. Like I can't remember which direction I was going, for instance, and things like that the night before. There's just details that I lose track of night to night if I just try to make this tapestry through memory. So maybe I don't have a very good memory. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I wouldn't say, because it's entirely possible those details aren't in the dream, for you to remember them. And I say dream tentatively because I don't know. Are there names of objects? Like you said, your friend lives on this road. You'd like to know where it is.
Yeah.
Your friend who doesn't exist in this reality.
Right. As far as I know. Yeah.
Okay. So that's fair. You haven't met this person in this reality, but they say they live on such and such a road.
They have a name.
Is there a name of the road?
Yeah. The house has a number. Yeah. The road has a name. The friend has a name, and the house has a number. The car has a make and model. Well, the fellow's name is Josh. The fellow's name is Josh. He has a Charger. He has a blue Charger.
Okay.
I think it's like
old one or a new one.
It's 80s.
80s.
Old. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which might be informed. I mean, I was a kid in the 80s and thought cars were cool. Probably then. And that was the only time I ever thought cars were cool when I was that age. So,
yeah.
I didn't grow up thinking cars were cool, but and the name of the road is something like Sealy. It's something unusual enough that it seems significant. It's not Main Street or something like that. It's something
right. It's not Washington Avenue.
Right. Yeah. It's something odd. So you could see how unsettling this would be night after night, But maybe you can't.
Not necessarily.
It is for me.
I personally have a theory on these things. And Josh, who drives a mid-'80s Dodge Charger blue
Yeah.
and lives on Sealy Street. What else do you know about him?
Well, usually he's a main character in the dreams. I'm going to get him, or I'm dropping him off, or we're out on the town together, or we're getting something done. I think we work together in some of the scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I know about him? He's fun and happy, and I'm always happy to see him, and warm and kind. He's my friend.
What does he say to you?
Huh. Good to see you. How you doing? Let's go, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes he makes suggestions like that, I think. I'm kind of reaching now, Richard. I'm not sure.
Okay.
The actual, events of the dream are harder for me to remember than the particulars, like the sort of the landmarks. Those are easier for me to remember.
Is it because the landmarks repeat?
Yes.
Okay. And the conversations don't repeat?
No. Maybe thematically, but no. Not enough where it's something insistent that I remember as being important when I wake up. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Anyone else in these dream experiences?
So
aside from you and Josh?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've got a family. Well, actually, I'm not sure. I've got a girlfriend. I'm not sure whether we're married or not, but I've got a girlfriend. There's a love interest involved. I'm not as clear on her name. It seems to change depending on the night. But she's often along as well. And she's there's a lot of warmth and devotion kind of a feeling between her and I.
I don't want to suggest things.
Okay. Well, it might help move things along. Could suggest.
I don't want to suggest things that you might accept, or people might perceive that you accepted them because I suggested them.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want to be leading. In other words,
that's
okay.
Fair.
I don't know how to avoid seeming leading. I've had people tell me about a very, very similar experience that you're telling me. And I've had similar experience. And I stopped the guy in one case because I got tired of not confirming it. And I said, don't tell me anything more. Instead, I'm going to go and write down details of this person. And I want you to do the same thing. And then compare notes. And see if we're talking about indeed the same being. Or at least how they represent themselves. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, it's not surprising to me that, that you're, you call it a reading frame, but it's really a reality frame, that your understanding of the state of the universe is how you're interpreting this.
Yes.
And, I'm aware of that, and I'm aware that that from your point of view, this would be either the good guys or the bad guys, communicating to me,
or just your mind having fun. It could be any of the above,
right?
or processing things. I say having fun very loosely.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just clearing out, plaque or something like that. Who knows? Like whatever gets generated during those kind of events. But and Josh is a very leading name itself. So I think that if
It's the nickname that I use locally.
you use it,
Not that I think that's representative of something within your experience.
oh, that's interesting.
No, I do it out of honor of the hero.
Right.
I
It's the
do it
name
to
of
honor the
hero.
hero. That's
Right.
why I adopt that name. I like hearing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm aware of that. That's not a mystery to me.
Sure.
And if we say that my subconscious is processing important matters, I mean, that I spend a lot of my day every day thinking about Jesus and what God
Sure.
means and what God is, and that's shouldn't be surprising if we want to look at it just from purely like subconscious ramblings that somebody named Josh is a friend of mine in my dreamscape. So um but okay, so how do I get to a point where it makes sense that this is a message, that this is a transmission? And by the way, what do you suggest? Do you suggest that this is a deception, or that this is authentically from Joshua?
I think if something is repetitive enough and important enough to you that you're talking about it right now, it should be analyzed.
Okay.
That's what I think right now. So I want to suggest methods of testing, blind surveys, comparisons, looking at things like truth values. It's evidently important to you. That much is obvious right now. And that's really the only thing I can say right now is I think this is important to you. I mean, for one thing, it's repeating.
Right.
I had a repeating dream one time. It took, I think, more than 8 months, less than a year and a half. I can't recall exactly. But every time the dream was a little bit longer, and I'd gotten a little further in the dream than the last time. Just a little incremental. Not very much farther at all. In fact, I made an art piece based on the dream. The dream was I'm walking on a long abandoned wagon trail through a forest. So there's a good bit of weeds and scrub and undergrowth, and there's big tree. There's big tree in this area, and it took probably 4 months, at least once a week, of walking a little bit further down this trail before I saw a house in a clearing. And the house had been abandoned. And, I get to see the house. I get to the yard. I get to the front porch. I get to enter a week apart-ish. And it just keeps going like this, little tiny steps.
Wow.
So bearing that in mind, it took a long time, okay, to get through this whole dream. Eventually, the screen door is falling off. The interior door, the entry door, is half off of its hinges. When I open it up, there is a sea of naked humans. And they're doing adult things. That's what they're doing everywhere. So that you can't see the floor. And you have no choice to step between them. That you're going to step on a hand or something, a leg, a foot, you're going to step on something. Because there's no space between them to walk. It's like a flood of people. And I don't know why I go upstairs, which was very difficult to climb because they're all over the stairs too. They're everywhere.
Wow.
I mean, they are covering the floor everywhere. I get I get upstairs and I turn to the right and I get to the first door and I look in there, and in the middle of this sea is my wife, my actual person I was wed to. And she was lying splaying on her back, kind of holding herself up on her hands, in a very revealing position. I'll put it that way. Backing away from her is a man who can't figure out where all the blood on him came from. And it's so shocking to him that he's like stumbling backward. And in her hand is the knife which she eviscerated herself with.
Whoa.
And he is half hollow. You can see through most of him. Only where the light hits him. And I mean, there's great detail in this. Like the only light in the air, because it's at night when I actually get into the house. It's day when I'm walking, but by the time I get there, it's fading into night. By the time I get upstairs, it's pretty dark outside. There's a faint hum of a generator in the background, and there's work lights, the kind with grills across them to protect the face of them.
Sure.
There's work lights outside shining through the windows. So there's even like a large grid pattern. There's only like 3 X's on him, where the wires intersect. And wherever there is darkness, you can't see him, and only where there is light can you see him, and the rest of him is hollow.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. And yes, she was cheating on me. And yes, it was the guy from that dream.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he really is like that. Yeah. And I was an atheist when this happened. But so I didn't believe in prayer or anything like that.
Wow.
But I figured that I must have put it together. Although I'm sure they did everything to make sure I didn't put it together. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, splayed yoga, Wild Hearts pee-pee. Yeah, so it was actually true. She had been seeing that guy. We were still married. We were still living together. We were having problems. I'd wanted a divorce for, at that time, at least 5 years. She said she wouldn't grant it because she'd been married twice before and divorced twice before me. I thought she knew what she was talking about when she said, well, I won't sign divorce papers.
Oh.
I didn't know I could file without her permission.
Right.
I stayed married an extra 10 years because I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
And just took her word for it. Yeah. So should have been married 7, was married 17.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
Wow.
But it was bad at 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds real bad.
It was horrible. Gave away my youth, actually. Gave away my chance of having children, all of that. So anyway, I think that a non-religious person who doesn't even believe in God can have, at least in my experience, I did, have revealing visions.
So are you saying that you understood it to be that even then?
Well, when I found out it was true,
okay.
What was I to do with it?
Right. 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 But you didn't conclude from the dream that it was happening. Did you look into it because of the dream?
I started looking into it because of the dream, and I became more suspicious because of that.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, I can go into great detail, but
that's fine. Yeah.
It gets a little bit grotesque, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she needed someone in her life, some man in her life at all times.
Mhm.
and she was slowly replacing me because she understood that I wanted out of the marriage.
Sure.
So she was interviewing people,
Wow.
and he was her main interview. Now
I see.
he was just a player. He wasn't interested in her,
Oh, wow.
and that's just his MO. That's what he does.
Right.
He takes advantage of women in bad marriages and has no intention of being with them long term at all. That's what he does.
I've known
Maybe
guys
for
like
a
that.
few months, maybe a year, something like that.
Sure.
Sure.
That's so sad.
We
This
did a
is-
movie on it, something called Wedding Crashers, I think.
Oh yeah, Wedding Crashers, right? Yeah.
That's how true it is that guys will do that. Peace and
Yeah,
respect,
absolutely.
Brian Stevens. You missed everything. We found the question to the answer 42.
But we don't know now.
Well, I'm not going to tell you. You just have to rewatch the show. I mean, I still remember what it was. Yeah, we've come a long way since the beginning of the show. So I'm going to invite you to write down all of the details about Josh that you have not mentioned. Don't bother to write down the ones you have mentioned.
Okay.
And this woman. And I'm going to write down my experience of two individuals, one male, one female. And I'm going to write about their physical looks, their personality types, and that's it. I'm going to ask you to do the same because you did not talk about those things.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm paying attention.
Physically describe them and their personality.
Yes.
I think I touched a little bit on their personality.
You said he was a friend of yours.
Yeah.
You said he said nice things.
Yeah.
That doesn't
More
talk much
kind.
about their personality. It may be indicative that that individual likes you or apparently likes you. But then that doesn't talk about, the finer points.
Right.
And those are the sorts of things I would request that you write down.
All right.
Okay.
I'm down.
And we'll save that for another show.
Sounds
Peace
good.
and respect, Marty.
Hey, Marty. And by the way, everybody, I'm on my phone, so I don't know what's going on in the chat. Relying on Richard to relay that stuff, so I'm not being purposely neglectful.
I think I've mentioned everyone as they came in.
Yeah, awesome.
I think I didn't miss anyone.
I see there's 99 chats on my little bubble there. Maybe it stops at 99. I don't know.
No, they're moving along pretty good. It doesn't stop at 99.
Nope, there it goes.
It just keeps on counting.
Happy everybody stopped by. I hope it was interesting for everyone. It definitely was for me. It always is. So
lots of weird stuff has happened since I turned 42, man. And I look at things very, very differently now. And what I find mostly I was doing as an atheist or non-believer, actually I was an anti-theist, to be accurate. Mostly what I was doing was making excuses why I shouldn't make accurate observations that were against things I like. That's mostly what I was doing. And if you think you're immune to that because you're a skeptic,
right,
I recommend you rethink that. You're probably just as biased as a religious person. You're just exercising your bias in the opposite direction. And you're not being honest with yourself, most likely, about some of your experiences. I recommend honesty, blatant, without any emotion, what's a complete Spock analysis of self. I really recommend it. Okay, so I think we have the next two shows planned out.
All right, sounds good. Absolutely.
Should be fun.
All right, so we'll meet back next week sometime between Sunday and Wednesday, and
yeah, depending on whatever other manager at your restaurant you have to cover for,
right?
And how much your schedule changes. My gosh, do you ever know when you're not working?
I mean, I make the schedule, so you'd think I would know.
Oh,
but...
God. That reminds me of a joke. You know that joke about the lunches?
No.
Construction guys, high rise, steel frame.
Yeah.
And they wanted a time jump off. The Irishman. I'm tired of corned beef. If she makes me corned beef one more day, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah. I've never heard this one.
The three wives meet at the joint funeral.
Okay.
And the Polish woman says, I don't understand. He packed his own lunch. Just cut to the chase there.
Thank you. That's great. No, it's more the case where I'm the guy that goes in when somebody has to go in. So
yeah,
there's always that guy. So, but things are getting better. So
I'd like to say that to people, if you're overworked and underpaid, okay, it's because they can't afford to promote you. You're too valuable. And if you had a set of workhorses and only one worked, would you like put the heavy load on the ones that don't work? Come on. It's just really common sense. The people who are dependable are going to do the lion's share of the work. They're going to get the worst hours, and they're unlikely to get promoted.
Isn't that right?
Which is what the movie Office is all about.
Right.
That's reality. That's just how it is. Take it as a compliment if they won't let you leave and they won't let you go somewhere else, go higher. Take it as a compliment. Yeah. You are good at what you do, and they know it. Now, they ought to give you a raise for that. I don't even care what your pay is. If they know that, they ought, and they know they ought to give you a raise.
Absolutely.
Well, Marty's turning 35. Congratulations.
Hey, all right.
Congratulations, Marty.
Nice.
She says 45, but I don't believe her.
No way.
Yeah, that or she's bathing in liquid kitten or something. I don't know what she does. But she definitely doesn't look that age. I remember being that age. I remember seeing women that age. There's no way I'm buying that, Marty, just so you know. That's just an old joke. Looks way too young and is an admitted witch. I don't know what's going on. Right. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. Final thoughts, Mac.
I just hope everybody has a good week. Spring is coming. We're heading into May, so take a minute and look for a flower. It's a cliche, but sometimes there's reasons for cliches. And I saw a flower today, and it made my heart jump. There's real beauty out there, and it's right there. You just gotta go find it. So that's my final thought today.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing it. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, next week we are going to compare our notes on characters that we experience not of this reality, and may not be completely our imagination. That should be interesting. Thank you all for coming by. I appreciate it. And thank you all for being decent people to each other. I know that's important to me, but it's so important to me that I appreciate it in you. Truly, I do. And thank you, Mac. And absent Steve, for being good people. Peace and respect to you all. Thank you very much, Mac.
Thanks.
Thank you. Until next time, I want you all to know that I truly do look forward to the day that we're all great friends. And by that, I mean great friends in that great beyond. Some call heaven. Some call other things. There's lots of names for it. See you guys next week. Peace.